What is socially acceptable in the US that would be horrifying in the UK? Story 1. When my Brit friends were visiting, they were horrified when the waiter took their credit card to swipe back at the terminal. This made them really uncomfortable. Yeah, and then bring you the receipt to sign it. I'm in Europe and I haven't signed a credit card receipt in over a decade. Even my neighborhood farmer who does rounds in his van delivering produce to the neighbors carries a handheld card reader. And since the pandemic, almost all of them are contactless. Unlock your phone, put it close to the reader, done, and paid. I'm Canadian. I was at Disneyland a couple years ago and used my credit card's contactless pay system at one of their restaurants in the park because I noticed it had the little logo on the machine indicating it was possible. You know, the technology that has been standard for more than a decade. The person working that till had no clue what the fuck happened when they suddenly noticed that the transaction had been recorded. They looked at me like I was from some other dimension. Despite working a till that had the capacity for contactless pay, that Disneyland employee had never seen anyone use it, and didn't even know that the machine had that capability. That day, I brought the Tomorrowland magic to Disney. Story 2. I would be uncomfortable too. I'm from Canada and they usually hand us the machine so that we can pay ourselves. German here. Same for us. You never give your credit card to anyone else. If you do and someone steals from you, the bank and insurance might actually refuse to pay anything back to you. Story 3. Politicians mentioning religion when campaigning. Only a few years ago that Tim Farron got raked over the coals when it came out that he was quite religious, which implied he might be anti-gay marriage. Night and day compared with U.S. politics. It haunted that entire general election for him. Everyone knew he was strictly religious, but he couldn't really defend himself, as politicians just don't talk about their religion. I remember multiple journalists asking if he thought being gay was a sin, and he just had to dodge every question. Story 4. Gaps in bathroom stalls. Story 5. Always horrified by the ads, both the content and the reoccurrence. Bloody hell, all your TV has like an ad a minute. Story 6. Greeters in supermarkets. Feels fake as fuck. Story 7. When the American friend said I was double fisting because I had another pint before my other was finished, I thought he meant something else entirely. Story 8. Stores showing the price pre-tax. Here in the UK, the price you see is the price you pay. As someone terrible at maths, shopping in the US stressed me out so much. Story 9. Naming your child Randy. I'm Irish, but my dad works for an American company and their CEO's name is Randy Horn. We got a good laugh out of that one. There's an American comic book artist named Randy Queen. The first time he went to London for a comic book convention, he discovered his hotel had canceled his reservation because they thought it was a prank caller. Allegedly, Scottish comic book writer Grant Morrison choked on their drink when they were introduced. Studied psychology A-level and learned about a well-known sleep study by Randy Gardner. No one in the class kept a straight face. Story 10. Anything taking over an hour to get to being a short trip. There's an insane amount of Americans that will have an hour or more as their daily commute. I have a bus run that takes almost 2 hours just to drive one half of it. It's another 2 or so to finish up. A full shift on that route is 2 to 3 rotations. It blows my mind people can drive that amount and end up in a different country when I'm just going through 2 cities. If we drive 2 hours, the accent has changed twice and bread rolls have a new name. I live in Texas. Recently made a day trip, 2.5 hours there, 2.5 back that night. That's pretty normal here. Yep, Californian too. There's a lot of great stuff 3 to 4 hours away from me. It's far easier to day trip them all versus trying to find lodging. Story 11. A rubber in England is not the same as a rubber in the US. What's a rubber in England? An eraser. However, in both cases, one uses a rubber to avoid a lasting mistake. Story 12. Calling, "Where's Wally? Where's Waldo?" My life is a lie. In French, his name is Charlie. Waldo versus Wally can put their differences aside to deal with this shit. Story 13. When somebody says you should come to the house sometime, actually going by their house sometime. Really wish I knew this one before spending a year in the UK. I did some serious prep on the cultural norms, but missed this one. Cue me chatting to someone at a luncheon who says, very enthusiastically, "You should come over for dinner sometime." And me responding, "I'd love to. Would next week work?" She got super uncomfortable and awkward and just walked away without saying anything. I was left standing there completely confused. Story 14. Chatting casually at the lift. The fact that the second floor of the US is the first floor in the UK really confusing the first time I went in an elevator in the UK. Saying elevator instead of lift. Story 15. Addressing a stranger as sir. The only person you address with sir in the UK is your teacher. Which is weird because school is the only place we don't use it in America. Your teacher is always Mr. or Mrs. or Miss, surname. Story 16. I have one that's the other way around. A girlfriend did that hands over the eyes surprise thing and presented me with a little Christmas tree decorated with a candy cane. I said, "Oh, a dinky little Christmas tree." In America, dinky means worthless. In the UK, it means small and cute. She cried. I had to call my mother to back me up on the misunderstanding. Over here, saying something is quite good means not bad. In the US, it's closer to very good. I had a student from the UK say that a chart I made for a lecture was brilliant. It was a compliment, but if he had been American, it would have been a much bigger compliment, especially in an academic context. Can confirm, am worthless. Dinky has a negative connotation for sure in the US. OP offered a pretty steep invitation to do so. Story 17. Huge portion sizes. Kids' meals in the US is like an adult meal in the UK. My observation, Brits drink alcohol like Americans eat. Americans eat a lot more and have bigger portions, but holy shit, folks from the UK drink way more than your standard American. Hard to explain how much more. I remember drinking with the Brits the first time. I was fresh out of college in my drinking prime. I reached the point where I normally hit the brakes and take it easy, and instead they just hit the gas. Story 18. Bum bag, not fanny pack. 'Cause over there your fanny means your arse, not your minge. Bites Scottish egg. Story 19. Being permitted to turn right at a red light, or even left if turning from one one-way street to another one-way street in some states, unless there is a sign specifying, "No turn on red." Story 20. Saying someone has a lot of spunk. My late cat's name was Spunky. Named her when I was 4 and thought I had made up the word entirely. In the US, it's just a cute and accurate name for a cat. When I moved to England, I just referred to her as Cat. The full name is Cathew. What does spunk mean in the UK? Where I'm from, we've always used it to mean higher energy. Someone has spunk, aka they have lots of pep and energy. Lamal, never mind, I got the answer. Thank you. There was a line in The Last Jedi where Snoke says to Rey, "You've got a lot of spunk." In the midst of a big, serious confrontation scene, I just couldn't stop myself laughing in the theater. I heard The Last Airbender movie, among its many other crimes, caused issues like this with the UK with such lines as, "He looks like a bender from the north," etc., or calling something a bummer. The word fanny also has different meanings that could trip a person up. Story 21. How much sugar is added to US food versus UK food? Not just that, but portion size. Wait, other countries don't sell 36-ounce individual steaks? Story 22. Not from the UK, but Australia. I feel like we're pretty interchangeable at times, culturally speaking, but tipping is weird. It's strange to pay on top of a service you've already paid for. Some places have a tip jar that you might sometimes put your loose change in, but that's the real extent of it. I find it bizarre when a company makes its employees rely on the generosity of others when they themselves aren't generous enough to pay a livable wage. We sincerely appreciate you taking the time to watch our YouTube video. If you find our content helpful and enjoyable, please click the subscribe button to stay updated on any new videos we share in the future. Thank you once again, and we hope to see you in our next upcoming videos.